Okay, good morning, everyone. We're just waiting for Melissa, and I think she will join us in a moment, and then we will get going. Hello, Nusha. I didn't greet you. Hello, Patricia. I didn't greet you either. Okay, Melissa, am I coming across loud and clear?
Loud and clear, Mark. You may start the opening ceremony.
Okay, good. Thanks very much. And good morning, everyone, and welcome to the official opening of BirdLife South Africa's virtual African Bird Fair. In fact, I think the first virtual bird fair ever held on the continent. We're very, very pleased with this morning's start, and it's a really promising day. We are very grateful to have so many participants from around the world, and especially having so many participants from across the continent. We have people joining us today from Sierra Leone, from Tunisia, from Egypt, from Uganda, from Kenya, from Mauritius, from Zimbabwe, and from elsewhere in Africa. Many of them are giving presentations as well, involved in some of the discussions. We're very, very pleased this morning to have a very prestigious group of people joining us for this opening ceremony. I'd like to thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate you joining us for the opening ceremony. I'm not going to do any formal welcomes now. They will be done as we proceed with the official opening. But before I do start and hand over to Professor Nusha Cinsami to introduce the Minister, I'd just like to briefly tell you a few things about BirdLife South Africa. So we are the country's only dedicated bird conservation NGO, and we have been around for a very long time. In fact, we were formed in 1905 as the South African Ornithologists Union. We became the Southern African Ornithological Society in 1936, and we became BirdLife South Africa in 1996. So initially, our responsibility was really the study of birds, ornithology, but it was only in the latter 25 years or so that we've become more conservation focused. We're very pleased to be part of an international network of organizations under the BirdLife Partnership that work together to conserve the world's birds. And there's about 120 partners around the world, all striving to achieve a common goal, which is to conserve the planet's birds, their habitats, and other biodiversity. And that map just indicates the distribution of the partners around the world, and you can see there's a number in Africa, in the Americas, in Asia, in Australasia, and in Europe. It's a very large organization and a very, very successful one as well. And our BirdLife International Chief Executive, Patricia Zarita, will talk a little bit about BirdLife International in a short while. We have 22 BirdLife partners in Africa, and we work very closely together as a group of organizations that are striving to conserve our continent's birds. That picture in the middle was at a meeting I attended in the African Regional Committee, which I serve, and some of those gentlemen in that picture will be presenting talks today. So we work very closely in our continent to conserve our continent's birds. And of course, we have to work closely together because birds aren't all resident. Some of them are migratory and some of them are nomadic. So the only way in which they will be conserved if one works together. BirdLife South Africa's main goal is to conserve our country's birds. That's really what our goal is. And we run a number of programs, projects, and initiatives to ensure that this goal is successfully met. And just that picture there, you can see we have an incredible diversity of species in our country, 870 bird species, and we work very hard to protect them so that future generations can also enjoy them. There was a very useful study done in 2010, commissioned by the Department of Trade and Industry, and it showed that bird watchers in our country spend between 927 million and 1.725 billion rand a year on trips and equipment. That's a massive amount of money. But also remembering that this study was done 10 years ago, so that number has increased subsequently. So there's huge potential for bird watching. It's one of the world's most popular pastimes, and in America, it matches things like gardening and golf. Now, we also work with communities, and over the last 15 years, BirdLife South Africa has trained more than 200 community bird guides. More than 100 of these guides make a living from bird guiding today, and they become ambassadors for nature and conservation in the areas in which they work. And some of them have even moved beyond guiding and become involved in environmental education and citizen science. And some even assist university professors with their work. I've just put pictures of two of the guides there. That's Michael Kumako, the very famous guide who's based at the Stratum Tunnel in the Drakensberg near Hoedspruit, and Lucky Ngwenya, who's based at Wakkerstroom in southern Mpumalanga. Now, our guides have had a rough time during COVID-19. We reached out to our members and our supporters to donate money so that we could contribute to the guides' living expenses. We're very pleased that we raised 700,000 Rand for the community bird guides, and we've been able to make monthly disbursements to 40 bird guides who were in need during this time. Okay, so that's just a little introduction about BirdLife South Africa. Now I'd like to hand over to BirdLife South Africa's Honorary President, Professor Nusha Cinsami. She's at the University of Cape Town. She's one of the world's most famous paleontologists. She's written many books and scientific articles, and she was also voted Women Scientist of the Year. She's also received a number of other awards, and we're very privileged that she's taken and accepted the position of BirdLife South Africa's Honorary President. So, Nusha, thank you for your time, and you are going to very kindly introduce the Minister of Tourism. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mark. Good morning, everyone. Honorable Minister Mameloko Kubayi-Ngubane, Deputy Minister Amos Fish Mahlalela, BirdLife International CEO Patricia Zarita, and other distinguished guests, and to all the participants at BirdLife Africa and at this fair. I'm absolutely delighted that after all the months of behind the scenes planning and organizing, the Africa Bird Fair is here. And this time, because the Africa Bird Fair has gone virtual, it has extended its reach throughout South Africa and Africa, as well as beyond Africa. It is my pleasure to officially open the 2020 Africa Bird Fair. Welcome to all of you that are here with us today. I am sure you are going to have a fabulous birding day about all things birding. What a treat today is going to be. It is also my pleasure to introduce the Honorable Minister of Tourism. Mameloko Kubayi-Ngubane is Minister of Tourism, as I mentioned. She is also a Member of Parliament of the Republic of South Africa and a member of the National Executive Committee of the African National Congress. Prior to her current role, Kubayi-Ngubane served as Minister in 3 portfolios: Science and Technology, Communications, and Energy. In 2009, she became a Member of Parliament and assumed several roles and responsibilities, including Acting Deputy Chief Whip of the African National Congress and Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Telecommunications and Postal Services. Kubayi-Ngubane is a member of the Global Artificial Intelligence Council established by the World Economic Forum Center for the 4th Industrial Revolution. As part of the Council, she and other global leaders are tasked with the responsibility to provide strategic guidance to the international community on priorities for artificial intelligence, machine learning, governance, and cooperation, while helping to shape global policy development. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to present to you Mameloko Kubayi-Ngubane, our Minister of Tourism. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. Let me acknowledge the presence of the Deputy Minister, DM Mahlalela, acknowledge the CEO of BirdLife South Africa, Patricia Zarita, Also, thank you, Mark, as well, for welcoming us as well, and all participants who are here. It has been, when I received the invite, I must say I was very excited, because one of the things that we've been pondering about is how do we still make sure that tourism thrives in the new normal. Being faced with COVID-19, where almost everything has come to a standstill, you know that when South Africa took a decision of risk-adjusted strategy, introducing levels, level 5, level 4, we had no activities coming to life from tourism. And at that time, the anticipation was that we'll only come back at level 1. So we had to do a lot of work to make sure that we come back. But more importantly was the question of how do we get to ensure that tourism thrives, comes back, but not only comes back, but can thrive again, and exist within the new normal. So that's why I'm so excited to be part of this platform, because as Prof said, to be able to reach not only within our own borders, but beyond. Virtual platforms create an opportunity as a first point of introduction, because normally, yes, we would want people to come and experience work in our country, because it's such a lovely, beautiful country for those who have joined us, who have not been in South Africa. It's a lovely country, you'd enjoy it. But the first introduction to you as a participant is to see South Africa from a virtual point. Being able to be introduced in this work, it's important for you to be able to see that South Africa has quite a lot of opportunities. Yes, as Mark said earlier on, speaking about the guides, we have lovely people who are always willing to receive, take care of our guests. And that's why during the difficulty, and I do hope, Mark, that there are some of also not only benefited from what you have been able to do, but when we looked in terms of our own, to say those who are freelance guides who are not employed anywhere, because we knew that they contribute a lot to our sector and they had nothing. That's why we started the process as well, to give them a relief for 3 months as the department, so that they can at least earn something and be able to survive. But we are happy now, since the announcement of level 2, that we are able to still be get our tour guides out, though it's still within domestic. And as I said a few days ago, and I continue to say that we are working around the clock to ensure that when our borders are opened, we have the sector that is ready to receive. We are optimistic. As I always say, that it's one step at a time. We started with the first step to get the protocols, got to test with the quarantine sites. In terms of our hospitality, we moved to the second step. We started seeing some level of activities, your restaurants coming back, subsectors. We went to the next step with intra-provinces, where we could tour within our province. And we moved to this next step where we are now with inter-province. And our next step definitely is for the borders. Now, while we're doing that, that's why we appreciate the work that is being done here. As one of the people that when I have time, I do enjoy to go bird watching. So I do appreciate this platform, because not really to be able to come and talk, but to be able to experience from a virtual point of view, learn more about the birds, especially because sometimes technology provides more opportunity, because you are able to pay attention more in detail. Instead of us walking, you'll see the bird flying and then you've missed it. So here, I know we colleagues, we are not going to miss the birds as we showcase them. We'll be able to see, but I want to say congratulations for this innovation. I'm not going to be long. Congratulations on this innovation. I really applaud you. That's why I said to my team, whatever happens on this day, I'm going to be part of it. Though it's a hectic day, but I will make sure that at least I do acknowledge the work that is being done by subsectors, but also your organization. There's been quite a lot of work that you've been doing, making sure that not only preserving, contributing to the preservation of our nature, but also contributing to making sure that we have a sustainable tourism. You're contributing to a sector that has a bigger role to play, not in only our country, but globally. tourism is one of the contributors for job creation, major job creation. We contribute to making sure that people's livelihoods are preserved. People have a decent way of earning a living and preserving their dignity. We contribute to the GDP of the country, as you are saying, the estimation there. We've seen tourism grow over years. If we look from 2019, the increase to almost 2.9% to the GDP. And we know we have potential to go beyond that. So we'll continue to work hard to ensure that those who do not know the central role of tourism in the economy continue to understand, but not only one area, but all subsectors. Because sometimes people think when they talk about tourism, they talk about one subsector. We have a very diverse sector, a sector that is able to absorb most high-skilled people and less skilled, people who have no skill. It's a home either for men and women, for young and old, a sector that is able to nurture talent, but also create an environment for entrepreneurs to thrive. So this is what you are contributing to, and that's why I acknowledge the work that you are doing, the innovation that you are doing today here, giving an opportunity to those who are in the IT space to say we can partner. While we're doing bird watching, we can partner with you as the ICT sector. Those young people who are interested, for example, who broadcasts, have an opportunity while we are showcasing the birding and doing tourism, as young broadcasters have an opportunity to partner with us. So the value chain, both directly and indirectly to tourism, is quite massive. And many people most of the time don't get to understand what tourism does in an economy. And thank you very much. And I hope as we do this work, people will continue to understand and see the value of this. I want to applaud you as an organization for this wonderful initiative. And I'm looking forward to participating. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister, very much for your very kind and very important words that you've spoken. We certainly look forward to working with you more in future. And I think as soon as COVID-19 regulations allow, we will meet with you. We'd love to tell you more about our community guide program. We have plans to expand the program, to train more guides, and to improve the skills of our current guides as well. So there's a lot that we'd like to discuss with you. But thank you very, very much for your presentation. We really appreciate it. Okay, I'm going to just share my screen again. And hopefully it's shared now. I'm now going to introduce our BirdLife International's Chief Executive, Patricia Zarita. She's a great friend of mine personally. She does amazing work. She's been BirdLife International's Chief Executive for the last 5 years. She was previously Executive Director of the Critical Ecosystem Partnership Fund. She's worked for Conservation International. She's Ecuadorian as well. And I think one of the nice things about Patricia taking up this role 5 years ago, I think she was the first person from the South, as we like to call, who has taken up the head of a conservation, international conservation NGO. So Patricia, thanks very much for your time this morning. We know that you have a very, very busy life. And we do also offer you condolences on the passing of your grandfather earlier this week. And Patricia, I'm going to hand over to you, and I think you'd also like to share some slides.
Thank you, Mark. No, and it is an immense pleasure to be with all of you. Good morning from the UK. I do have some slides that I would like to share with you, but first of all, allow me to congratulate you, Mark, and your team in BirdLife South Africa for pushing the idea of maintaining the bird fair, even virtually, despite the circumstances right now. Honorable Minister Kubani and Ngubane and Deputy Minister Matlalela, it's a pleasure and an honor to be sharing this panel with you because this demonstrates the interest and the priority that you are giving from the government of South Africa to the conservation of birds, but also how can we share this with the rest of the world through the tourism. Professor Nusha, it's lovely to see you. Thank you so much for opening up. So what I'm going to do in the next couple of minutes is just tell you a little bit about what BirdLife is, and how the bird fair is actually going to help us move the conversation forward, and why this is such an important day to actually do this. But I'm going to leave that as a surprise until I talk about it. So let me just make sure that it goes into slideshow. There you go. So for those of you who don't know it, BirdLife International is the largest partnership for nature. Mark said it. We have presence over 100 countries. And Mark, I'm delighted that we are so connected that we have the same slide. The blue countries on that map on the right are the countries where BirdLife has BirdLife partners. Now, BirdLife is a very different model than any other international conservation organization. We don't parachute programs in different countries. What we do is find the local organizations that can be part of our family, and together we build up a strategy and make it work. So we call ourselves the power of many, because I truly believe that only working together we will be able to tackle the absolutely imminent and urgent crisis of the biodiversity loss and the climate change. And we connect worlds. Birds are actually helping us to do that. And I'll show you how we are the global authority for birds. So BirdLife is one of the few, if not the only, truly global organization. These are all of the BirdLife family organizations. As I said, is a very different model. Every single organization that is part of the family is its national conservation organization with its own governance, with its own priorities, but we all come together and share one goal: to save the birds and biodiversity of the planet. And we recognize that we can do that only by joining forces and working together. Now, we have the huge advantage, and for those of us who love birds, to use birds as exceptional ambassadors of nature. They are not only magnificent and beautiful, but they are actually an extraordinary indicators of the health of the planet. They are telling us what's happening in the other parts of the world. And yesterday I was shooting a video that we're going to show at the Convention of Biological Diversity about the East Asian Australasian flyway, this flyway that connects the northern part of Siberia all the way down to New Zealand and Australia. And it was fascinating for me to learn while I was preparing for the video that the reason why we started seeing that we started finding out why the decline of birds was happening. So we started seeing incredible declines of shorebirds and waders in Australia in 2004. And then we immediately realized that the connection to that was the destruction and the reclamation of the Yellow Sea, thousands of miles away. So the birds are actually telling us a story. They are truly the canary in the coal mine that is telling us what's happening, not only with birds only, but the rest of the environment, the rest of the species. So it's an extraordinary and very cost-effective way of measuring the health of the planet. In addition to that, because they're beautiful, and I love to say this, but just imagine the minute that you wake up and you open the drapes of your room, the first thing that you see is a bird. You don't see pandas. You don't see, well, in your case, you guys may wake up and see lions and wonderful wildlife. But in most of the cases, in cities, in urban areas around the world, in every single continent, what you see is birds. And birds are the most published taxonomic group. They are beautiful and easy to see, and people love to study them. So these bubbles that you see on the slide are the number of publications per year that have, and this is I apologize, this is 2016 data, so it may have changed a little bit, but I know that still birds are the most published taxonomic group. So the fact that they are an extraordinary indicator and that we can study them fairly easily, it help us to actually use them as the tip of the iceberg to understand what's happening with the rest of the planet. Now, BirdLife, one of the reasons why I came to BirdLife in 2015 was precisely because of the science acumen that this organization has. We have been, over the years, the Red List Authority for Birds. That means that we curate all of the data that has been published about birds every single year, and every December we update the data to tell us what's happening, whether birds are getting safer and far from extinctions, or whether birds are getting closer to extinctions and we have to take urgent actions to prevent that. And it is truly the science of bird life that is actually guiding our action. With the information of birds and what's happening with them, we have created 40 years ago a methodology to identify the most important sites for birds and biodiversity. All these sites that you see on red on the map are the most important IBAs, important birds and biodiversity areas around the world. Over 13,000 of them that are covering 26 million square kilometers, or 7.4% of the terrestrial surface and 6.4% of the marine surface. So what does this mean? If we invest, because resources for conservation of nature are so scarce, if we invest in these areas, we will be tackling the most important problems of nature around the planet, not only of birds, of nature. Now, the interesting thing about this, and it was shortly after I arrived to BirdLife in 2016, we created, with the methodology of BirdLife as the foundation, something that is now called the Key Biodiversity Area Partnership. It's 12 organizations from all over the world that are recognizing that by using this methodology and adding to the IBAs other taxa, we will be prioritizing conservation in the most important places. Again, all of this driven because we have to be cost effective. There's not a lot of money for conservation. We have to make sure that we are enabling those resources to conserve the most important sites. Now, the way that BirdLife works, as I said, is all of us coming together and having a common strategy, and this happens every 10 years. In 2013, our last strategy was approved by the whole BirdLife partnership. So all the 115 partners come together and approve the BirdLife strategy. And the strategy is very simple. We use birds as the ambassadors of nature. We are concentrated on saving them, protecting them, studying them, and understanding them so they can tell us what are the most important sites and habitats that we have to protect. So this is how we work with the IBAs that I mentioned in a minute ago. Now, we want sustainability in all of the actions that we're taking. So we're making sure that all of our investments are sustainable over time, but we recognize, and I think this is the most important part of our strategy, that we're not going to be able to do this alone, that we have to engage and empower local people to be the stewards of this conservation and this nature over time. Now, the magic of BirdLife makes this a lot easier because, as you heard, local organizations, and you heard it from Mark and his work with local tour guides and how they have been working with the communities to engage and build up this capacity. Local organizations have the legitimacy and the power and really the acceptance from local communities, from national governments to work much better in their own regions than organizations that come from other parts of the world. And I'm not by any stretch of imagination undermining or underestimating the incredible work that the international conservation community does, but I want to emphasize that the model that BirdLife has enables us to have a much stronger power at the local level because we have local national conservation organizations that are speaking the same language, speaking the same culture, speaking and understanding the reality of your own place, but coming together as part of this global family that is making a difference. Now, the other magical thing that birds do is that they connect us. They are actually showing us how we are, how we have to work together and how we need to be connected. Birds know no borders, and this is an animation of white storks leaving Germany every year and going down to Africa through the Africa-Eurasia flyway, some of them going through the Bosphorus Strait, some of them going through the Gibraltar Strait, but all of them going down to Africa and then coming back. And the reason why we are able to do this and map this animation and all of these yellow dots are real data from our partners is precisely because we have this network of organizations working together. It enables us to show that birds know no borders, that we have to work together, but also allows us to tell very compelling stories about birds that help us connect with the rest of the public. When I arrived to BirdLife, they gave me this animation. I have kept using it for 5 years because I think it's incredibly powerful. And also because it allows me to tell a very funny story. So when I was presented with this data, they told me that there was a pair of storks nesting in the northern part of Germany, and they were coming back. The female was going through the Gibraltar Strait, the male was going through the Bosphorus, and they were coming back to the same nest every single year. That happened, it just so happened that 1 year, 3 years after they started measuring this, the male first came back and the female took 2 more weeks, for weather reasons. She arrived late. And by the time that their female had arrived, the male had already found a female. So she was left alone. A little bit typical, I have to say. But the reality is that flyways and the migration of birds are an extraordinary opportunity to connect the world and to show the world that we are connected and that we have to work together and that we're living in one single system, that countries and borders are just artificial lines that we have created to manage ourselves, but that the reality is that nature needs us to work together. These are the main flyways of the planet and that BirdLife is working on. And we, as I said, the advantage that we have with BirdLife is that we can get all of these different organizations working together, providing data, understanding how are we actually tackling the different threats, because throughout the flyways, you have different threats. You have illegal hunting in the Mediterranean, you have habitat loss in parts of Africa, you have problems of agriculture and pesticides in Northern Europe. So we have to work together to tackle the different realities, but make sure that the flyways and the international community of birds is actually maintained for our sake, not only for them. Now, I am delighted, as everybody has said already, that the African Bird Fair is going virtual, and that is happening today. And I am honored to be here with all of you. Thank you so much for having me. But I couldn't think of a better time to actually have this, Mark, and I'm not sure if you actually did it on purpose or not. This is a picture of a Griffin Vulture. Today is Vulture Awareness Day. And I don't know if you're all aware, but we are living an incredible crisis in Africa. Our vultures are declining faster than we have ever seen. And there's 4 key reasons why this is happening. We are losing them because of direct poisoning. People who are poaching wildlife, mainly elephants and rhinos, are leaving carcasses poisoned. So then vultures are not telling them off. They are the sentinels that allow law enforcement to come and find out where the carcasses are and in some cases get the poachers caught. Indirect poisoning because of conflict between wildlife and local communities. Sometimes hyenas, lions are being poisoned because they killed cattle, and then vultures come and we may lose 1 or 2 lions or hyenas, but after that we end up losing 160, 200 vultures behind them. The third reason is trade. There is trade of body parts of vultures in the western part of Africa mainly. We have lost 95% of the vultures in Nigeria, and we're losing vultures. And we just saw earlier this year, right before the lockdown, over 2,000 vultures killed in Guinea-Bissau for trading their body parts. People believe that by using the body parts of vultures, they will be able to see the future. And there's a huge element of education and awareness that we need to raise. So I couldn't think a better day of having the bird fair than on Vulture Awareness Day. BirdLife has been working with vultures in Asia and Africa for the last 15 years. We were able to resolve and stop the decline of vultures in India and Nepal and Bangladesh that was associated to the use of diclofenac. And we are working very, very hard to stop the decline of vultures in Africa. We will have throughout the day today a huge amount of social media going about Vulture Awareness Day, but we will take advantage of this to stretch it over the month and make sure that people realize how important vultures are in our system. They are the unsung heroes, as we call them, and we have to protect them. And I am incredibly proud of the African partnership of the BirdLife partners who are working so hard to make sure that we turn around the fate of our wonderful vultures in Africa. Now, we are living the biggest catastrophe that the planet has seen since World War II. The COVID pandemic has put the whole planet to a halt. We have seen the economy tank, millions of lives being lost, hundreds of thousands of people all over the world being impacted, and millions being infected. And if anything, this pandemic has shown us that we are living in one single planet. That doesn't matter that the trade of pangolins and bats in China is creating a pandemic or an illness there. It actually became a pandemic very, very quickly. And it is related to our relationship to nature. If we don't respect nature, if we don't understand that nature is at the heart of our solutions for the problems that we're seeing in the planet, we're never going to be able to stop this type of pandemics, and we're just going to see more and more of them. So on Earth Day, the 23rd of April, BirdLife, in response to the pandemic, decided to push forward a plea to the United Nations. After the Second World War in 1948, there was a commission of people who created the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. People didn't want, and governments didn't want to see the horrors of the war happening again. Now we're living, since then, the worst catastrophe that the planet has seen, and BirdLife is calling to the global community, not only the conservation community, the global community, and working very closely with the United Nations Environment and Human Rights Rapporteur to ask for the United Nations Secretary to enshrine the right that we have to a healthy natural environment. We cannot live. We will not be able to thrive. We will not be able to have a healthy environment unless we have the right to a healthy environment recognized at the level of the United Nations Human Rights Declaration. So we are campaigning very hard on this, and we will continue to campaign for the next 2 years. There is a big meeting of the United Nations Human Rights Council happening in the next 2 weeks. But I want to call all of you who are interested in birds and nature and understanding our well-being depends on the global status of the planet, and join me and sign the petition. The address is oneplanet1right.org. We have already, and this is a screenshot from this morning, we have 86,000 signatures. We want to get to 100,000 by the end of September. I know that the 10,000 people that have signed up for the bird fair will be able to help us get further. So please get into the website, sign in, join us, join our flock. Be part of the movement that can help us turn around this crisis, help us spread the word that nature is the solution. I mean, we've heard it. There's so many benefits that we're getting in terms of economy, in terms of communities, in terms of health, in terms of equality that nature brings to us. And we know that alone we cannot do it. So join our flock, help us connect straight and help us stay true to our nature of connecting the world so we can save our world together. We need to do it now. We don't have more time. And with that, I would like to thank you, Mark, for having me, and thank you all of you on the panel for allowing me to share with all these incredible dignitaries. And good luck today. I'm going to be leading a session later today about the impact of COVID on events and tourism, and how we can think about being creative, as you have been with the virtual bird fair. And it's going to be an extraordinary day, and we will be celebrating the vultures throughout today. So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Patricia. Thanks very much for your wonderful presentation. You're a great leader. And BirdLife is a wonderful organization. And I can tell you now that BirdLife South Africa is very honored and privileged to be part of this global partnership of organizations. It's an absolute pleasure for us to work with you and to support you. We thank you for your time this morning. And I know you have a busy life, not only work-wise, but you have 2 young daughters. I'm not sure how you managed to keep them quiet. I did hear the new puppy in the background as well.
I know, I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. This is the thing of Zoom. And maybe if he's nearby, you could actually show him to us. He's the cutest dog. But thank you, Patricia, for your kind words. And yes, and as Patricia said, she will be speaking at 2 o'clock South African time. At Central African time, she'll be talking about, with a panel about the impact of COVID on both conservation and tourism in Africa. Show us your puppy, Patricia.
Let's see. It's hard with the background, but yeah, there you are.
He's very cute.
Loud. Sorry about the noise.
No, it was actually fairly quiet, so thank you. Okay, I'm going to share again. So thanks, Patricia, for that. We've got one more presentation. And that's going to be by Professor Peter Ryan, who's the director of the Fitzpatrick Institute of African Ornithology, the University of Cape Town. The FITS, as we call it, or the Fitzstitute, is one of the most important ornithological institutes in the world. And we're very, very proud as BirdLife South Africa to partner with the FITS on a number of projects and also serve on their board. And we really support the work that they do. The scientific wing, I'd like to say, of our organization. And as the British Trust for Ornithology supports our partner, the RSPB in the UK, we do believe that the Fitzpatrick Institute provides some of the support to BirdLife South Africa. Now, Peter is away at the moment. He's actually in the field, so we've recorded a presentation which we will now show. Peter is one of the world's seabird experts. He's actually doing a lot of work at the moment on plastics and the impact that they're having on the environment, engaging quite extensively with our Minister of Environment, Minister Barbara Creasy, and others. But Peter was not able to be with us, but we do have a recording from him. So I'm going to stop sharing, and Melissa, if you could share his presentation. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm sorry I can't be with you in person, but it gives me great pleasure to contribute to BirdLife South Africa's 2020 Virtual Bird Fair. I'm going to say a few words about the importance of Africa for birds and the importance of birds for Africa. We're extremely privileged to live in Africa, the cradle of humankind. As people spread around the planet, they triggered a series of megafaunal extinctions which caused the disappearance of 70 to 90% of large mammals, birds, and reptiles. As a result, Africa is the only continent with a largely intact megafaunal community. But Africa's not only important for large mammals, it's equally important for birds. Africa is second only to South America in terms of the number of species of birds. About 1/4 of all bird species are found in Africa and its adjacent islands. Remarkably, nearly 2,000 of these species, close to 20% of all birds, are found nowhere else. Perhaps the most iconic of African birds is the shoebill, a giant stork-like bird found in papyrus swamps in Central Africa. It's related to the pelicans and the hamerkop, another peculiar African single-species family, famous for building one of the largest of all bird nests. The secretary bird is yet another monotypic African family that's on the must-see list for birders from around the world. Altogether, 27 families of birds, more than 10% of all families, are only found in Africa, including 2 families confined to southern Africa, the sugarbirds and the rock jumpers. The rock jumpers are particularly peculiar, as their closest relatives are the bizarre picathartes or rockfowl of Central and West Africa and the secretive rail babbler from Southeast Asian jungles. If that weren't enough, 2 of the 40 orders of birds are confined to Africa. The Churracos or luris, with their unusual metal-based feather pigments, and the mouse birds, which used to also occur in Europe, but are now represented by only 6 species, restricted to sub-Saharan Africa. The mouse birds have numerous peculiar traits, including solar-powered digestion and feathers over their entire body. A recent study comparing the genomes of birds found that mouse birds are the most distinct bird order, differing from all other orders. Given this extraordinary diversity of birds, it's not surprising that Africa is a mecca for birders. Locals and tourists alike delight in discovering African birds. We can harness this enthusiasm to generate valuable data on the state of the continent's environment. Initiatives such as the African Bird Atlas Project collate observations across the continent to give a real-time measure of global change. No other group of organisms offers such a broad-scale overview of how the planet is changing. And sadly, the news is seldom encouraging. This map shows how the reporting rate of the ground woodpecker has changed since the 1990s. Apart from a few mountain refugia, the bird appears to be in trouble across much of its range, and this is the only place on Earth where it occurs. There's never been a time when it's more urgent to act to conserve our planet. Fortunately, birders tend to be environmentally aware and are thus good environmental citizens. I trust you will enjoy the 2020 Bird Fair, and I hope that it will encourage you to join the BirdLife family and help to conserve our rich avian heritage.
Okay, thank you. In his absence, I'd like to thank Peter for that presentation. I'm just going to share my screen again. Good. Okay, I'm going to move on. So, sorry, before we do so. Okay, that's the end of the formal presentations. We've got a couple of announcements at the end, and I will do the thank yous then too. But one thing we'd like to do now is just do a draw. As you can imagine, times are tough financially for donor-funded organizations, and we've certainly been putting out all stops to ensure that we remain well-resourced to undertake our important bird conservation work. One of the many ways in which we are funded is through a group of very dedicated and committed and supportive people called Conservation League donors. We have a growing number of Conservation League donors, and every year the number is increasing. Every year we have a little initiative where we have a lucky draw for all of our Conservation League donors to encourage maybe a few new people to sign up as Conservation League donors. This year the prize is a pair of Zeiss Conquest binoculars sponsored by Zeiss, and we're very grateful to Zeiss for their support. Traditionally, we do this draw at the physical bird fair, which is held at the Walter Sisulu National Botanical Garden in Gauteng, but this year we're going to be doing it virtually. And Shireen Gould, our membership manager, is actually with me at home, and she's going to pass me the vase of names which have been put in this vase too, and I'm going to be drawing the lucky Conservation League donor name out of it. And a large number of the Conservation League donors are actually have joined us. And the winner of the binoculars is Mrs. Lehele. So very well done to you. We will be notifying her soon, if she's not online as well, that she's won this pair of binoculars. And once again, just thank you very much to these important supporters. Okay, so Patricia did steal my thunder a little bit, but I think it's maybe good that we re-emphasize the importance of today. It is International Vulture Awareness Day. It's an initiative that BirdLife South Africa is involved with. We also have our own vulture project manager, and we do a number of vulture projects. One of the important ones is to have lead ammunition replaced with non-toxic alternatives, and also to establish vulture safe zones. And we're actually announcing the launch of a vulture safe zone in KwaZulu-Natal today. And if I understand correctly, there's a full page about that in today's Saturday Star. If you'd like to know more about International Vulture Awareness Day, there's actually an event at 10 o'clock straight after this in Feeder 2. And also in the main feeder, the first session on African birding destinations. And we're very pleased that we have partners and colleagues from around the continent who will be presenting talks on their countries, their organizations, and some of the great birds that one can see around Africa. So yeah, International Vulture Awareness Day, and there's no more important group of birds to conserve. My favorite group of birds, in fact, and those are 3 whiteback vultures that I photographed earlier this year. The vultures on the continent are in trouble. They're in big trouble, and we need to do all we can to protect them, not only for their own sakes, but also for people's sakes. Vultures, by consuming carcasses, spread the prevent the spread of really important diseases, things like botulism, for example. Okay, so we've come to the end of the opening ceremony, and before I do a formal thank you, I think Julie Bailey, our events and marketing coordinator, is online. There may be just a few announcements if you just bear with us before we do close. Julie, are you there?
Yes, Mark, I'm here.
Okay, good, Julie. And just before we do hand over to Julie, well done, Julie. We made a decision a few months ago to cancel the physical bird fair. You climbed in and sourced a platform that we can use. We've really enjoyed working with Participate Technologies, a wonderful organization based up here in Johannesburg. And we've climbed a mountain. And I know it's been exhausting for you, particularly as somebody who's 8 months pregnant. But well done, Julie, on what you managed to pull off. And we'll hand over to you to just make those last few announcements.
Super. Thank you, Mark. And thank you, everyone, for the opening ceremony. Just a few announcements. It has been an absolute pleasure to work with the team that's managed to pull off today. I think we've got off to a really smooth start, and we look forward to the rest of the presentations throughout the day. I encourage everyone to make use of the platform as and how you want. You can play around, you can search around. I know it can be daunting to now be on a virtual platform and not walking around a garden at our usual bird fair. But I do encourage you to completely make use of your day and to enjoy all the presentations from the wonderful speakers that we've managed to gather, to have a look at all of our exhibitor booths who have been very supportive during the times of loading all their information and bringing things together. And of course, to visit our sponsor booths as well. We couldn't have done this fair without our sponsors, and we do gratefully thank them. And please do go have a look at their sites, at their booths. They've got wonderful products on show. So between our exhibitors and our sponsors, a very warm thank you from myself. Another area that I encourage you to visit and to really go enjoy is our silent auction function. It is available and visible on your platform on the left-hand side. If you click there, you're going to see a lot of wonderful prizes. There's everything, or shall I say items that you can win depending on how much you bid. There's some wonderful prizes and things from weekends away to gorgeous signed books to artwork, to birding trips away and courses. So please go peruse and enjoy yourself there. I encourage you to go and make a bid. I know I already have, so watch out for that Boulders weekend away. In terms of just events for the rest of the day, come and go as you please. We encourage you to interact, to network. The whole point of having a virtual bird fair is to continue our goals that we have from our physical bird fair, and that is to share knowledge, it is to create relationships, and it is to network. And I encourage you to use this platform to do so by all the live chat functions or instant messaging or chat rooms that you see. We will be prompting you along the way, but if you do get lost, you can head on over to the event concierge on your left-hand side. You'll find some tips and tricks for the platform. You will also find a direct link to me for a live chat, so you can contact me. I promise I will try to get to everyone as much or as quickly as I possibly can. That's about it from me. I really do thank the team that has helped put together this virtual bird fair, both the BirdLife South Africa team that's been part of it, and especially Participate. They are a proudly South African company, and it is a wonderful fair that we have managed to pull off. Just like the physical fair, we can't predict weather and technical issues on this side. So if there is something, please bear with us, but I'm sure you're all going to enjoy it and appreciate the fact that we have managed to bring this into your homes for the rest of the day. Enjoy yourselves, and if there are any questions or any comments, please drop me a line on the instant chat function on the event platform, and I'll be happy to assist. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Julie, and well done to you and the team once again. And so just to reiterate, the silent auction is important. We have well over 50 items as well, which one can go bid on. And there's a paid for presentation later today, 5 o'clock. It's the only paid for activity during the virtual bird fair. Peter Harrison, the world's leading seabird expert, sometimes called the David Attenborough of the seas, will be talking about albatrosses. We expect 1,500 people to attend that presentation, maybe more if we're lucky. But if you haven't registered for that yet, I think you have got till midday to do so. We can't take registrations after that. And we will also be having a bird quiz this evening. We've called it the biggest bird quiz in Africa. Could be the biggest bird quiz in the world or virtual bird quiz in the world. So that's also something to consider joining. But do look at the program. There are presentations throughout the day. And then just to end off, I'd really like to give my heartfelt thanks to the Honourable Minister and Honourable Deputy Minister for your time this morning. We really, really appreciate it. And I can tell you, Minister and Deputy Minister, you have our support. We will work with you. We will support you. We are striving to achieve the same goals and objectives as you and your department and our South African government. And it's an absolute pleasure for us to work with you. We have a very, very good relationship with the Department of Environment, Forestry and Fisheries. We have an MOU, or actually 2 MOUs with the department. We look forward to establishing a similar relationship with the Department of Tourism, because I believe that it will be a mutually beneficial relationship. And I'd also like to just thank our Honorary President, Professor Nusha Cinsami. Thank you very much for your time, Nusha. It's really an honor to have you as our Honorary President and for the time that you give up to our organization. I don't know whether you knew what you were letting yourself in for when you became our Honorary President in May. And then BirdLife International Chief Executive, Patricia, thanks very much for your time, Patricia, once again, joining us all the way from the UK. And you will be joining us again at 2 o'clock for that discussion on COVID-19 and its impacts on tourism and conservation. So thank you. And in his absence, also just like to thank Professor Peter Ryan. So we've come to the end of the opening ceremony. We've done really well on time. So we're ending just about dead on time. It's the beginning of the day for us. We look forward to the rest of the day. I think it's going to be a fantastic success. If anything started anything to go by, we have thousands of people that are going to be joining us from around Africa and around the world. And we are really, really pleased with the outcome and the fact that we could adapt to these changing circumstances and hold a virtual event. Thank you once again, and especially thank you to you, Minister and Deputy Minister. Thank you very much for your time. I'm going to close down now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andrew.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.